Hi folks, this is Karim Raouf from IT Visualizer channel. We will continue our lab, the Red Alert Lab. This is the video number 94. We have been discussing in the previous video the following, video number 93, I think. We have been discussing in the previous video, or the previous 4 videos, we have been discussing protecting against cybersecurity attacks. This is a documentation provided by Center for Internet Security Organization. It's a non-profitable organization that is famous for issuing documentations and recommendations and best practices for securing different platforms and different applications. For example, they are issuing recommendations for securing Windows 10, Windows 11, Linux systems, securing firewalls like FortiGate, Sophos, securing Cisco switches, a lot of things actually, and they are all for free. You can download it from their website. And there is also this documentation that's talking about protecting against cybersecurity attacks. We have been discussing this documentation for 4 videos. They have, or in brief, what we have discussed in the previous 4 videos, they have 3 recommendations, or the first 3 recommendations to secure yourself against cybersecurity attacks is to have a complete inventory for your enterprise assets, the hardware assets and the software assets. The hardware assets includes not limited to your servers, your workstations, your phones. It is included Internet of Things if it is included, and the software inventory, to have a software inventory of your operating systems, your applications, the licenses, and all of these things. And actually making an inventory of your software and hardware, it's not only to organize and to have a documentation of all of your assets, but also it is from a perspective, or a security perspective, it is very critical. Okay, and I have discussed why it is important from a security perspective. And the third recommendation is to protect your data. And we have said to protect our data, we need to know the life cycle, or the data life cycle. So we have discussed that the data life cycle begins with collecting the data, and then usage of the data, storing of the data, and then usage of the data. So we have discussed in the previous video the third recommendation of the CIS, which is data protection. And we have said that protecting the data means that we need to study the data life cycle, and we have discussed the first 2 phases of the data life cycle, which is collecting the data and then storage of the data. Today we will continue working with data protection and continue working with the data life cycle, and discuss the third phase of the data life cycle, which is usage of data. Okay, and we have said before that in all of the phases of the data life cycle, we need to protect the data anyway. Okay, so let's refresh our mind with this graph. So here we can see that we have said that this is the life cycle: collecting of data and storage and usage and share and archive and destroy. And in these 5 phases we need to make data protection, apply cybersecurity measures, and protect personal data in all of the 3 phases. Protect personal data during collecting, during storing, during usage, during sharing to other partners, okay, or our company partners or our business partners, and archive and destroy. When we archive the personal data, we need to protect it, and when we destroy it, we need to destroy it in a very secure manner. Okay, so here data contributes to knowledge building. Of course, data, the more data you know, the more your knowledge will be, or the more knowledge you will build. Okay, and when well leveraged, or it is well used, you can use it for various needs. So for example, identifying trends and gain actionable insights on service users need, enhance service planning, operations, and quality of existing service. So you use the data to know. So you have data, for example, how much users need a certain service. This is the data. For example, if you are providing, for example, if you are an Amazon website, and a lot of users are asking for a certain product, so we can, by using this information or this data, we can increase our production of this product. Okay, or increase or enhance this product, so more sales will be coming. Okay, so this is a data. We can use the data to gain certain trends and or to get certain certain trends, I mean certain actions done by the users. So for example, we see a lot of users are asking for a certain product. This is a trend. Okay, so if you know the trends, then we can improve our service and or improve our product and rectify the error, for enhance our product to make it more quality or more quality for the service, and to troubleshoot if there is a problem in the service. So basically we are collecting data to know what is the user needs and to enhance our service and operations and quality. So this is the first or the main purpose of collecting the data. Okay, collecting and using, by the way. Collecting the data, we need to know the business needs or the user needs, and when we use the data we will also use it to fulfill the user's business needs, okay, and to enhance our service. So for example, when I collect the data how much users need a certain product, this is collecting of the data, and then I will use this data to, for example, manufacture certain amount of this product. For example, if users need 50 units of Adidas, for example, shoes, okay, so I collected this data from the website, and then I will take this data and use it to tell my let's see, my manufacturers or the manufacturers to manufacture 50 shoes. So I am collecting the data, the users need 50 shoes, so I am collecting the data and then use it to manufacture 50 shoes. So this is how we can collect and use. Anyway, so we will use the data to know or to fulfill the user business needs, to enhance our service planning, and to enhance our quality of service. Okay, so user data or use data is divided into 4 parts. Verify purpose for data usage. Why do you use this data? To enhance your service or to fulfill a user need or something. This is the first thing. Understand ways to use data, how we can use the data. There is some ways to use the data. Establish internal protocols and procedures for data usage. So how we can use the data. If there is personal data, for example, we need to make a clear policy how we can use the personal data without being objected or without being facing legal issues, for example, if you are using personal data. Okay, understanding personal data. The last thing is personal data during or the usage of personal data and the using of data in general. So you need to have a policy or internal policy to use the data. So there is a policy what departments use what type of data, and the exchange of data or the usage of data between these departments. There should be a policy for this. And the using of personal data, there is also should be a policy for using personal data. Okay, so we will discuss the first thing, verify purpose for data usage. First of all, we need to establish the purpose of using the data. Check that our agency the data required, check that your agency has the data required to fulfill the established purpose. Ensure that data is kept in up-to-date and accurate. So your data should be accurate, so when you use it, it will give you the planned result. Okay, so check against your agency internal data policy to verify that the data can be used for the established purpose. So for example, there is some kind of data that could not be used or could not be used in production. So maybe you have sensitive data, for example, not personal data, maybe some financial data. It could not be used between all departments. It should only be used by the finance department. So this is a data usage policy. Not all of the data can be used. Okay, some types of data can be used in certain departments. So this should be established and published in internal protocols for using of data. Anyway, so the first thing is to verify purpose for data usage by, here it is divided into, first we need to establish the purpose of using data. Check that that your agency has the data required to fulfill. You have the data to fulfill the purpose, for example, to fulfill users' need, okay, from a product or from a service. Ensure data is kept accurate. Ensure that using this data, it is in line with your internal data usage policy. So for example, finance team should only use financial data, okay. IT team should only use IT data, okay. So this is the first thing: verify purpose for data usage. And then the next thing is to understand ways to use the data. Data is like oil. It is raw product. When you refine it, you can use it in a very effective way. Here he's saying about data analysis or data mining. He's saying especially he's concentrating on data analysis, how you can analyze the data to get future business, or to predict future business, to predict user pattern of using certain services and products, to plan for future, if you are planning to plan for making future business, okay, or plan for example, a new product to be released in the market, something you make like publishing a new product or pushing a new product in the market. Anyway, so he's saying here that data is like oil. It is raw, but when it is refined, it is very valuable, okay. So here's two suggestions or how you can analyze the data. First, create actionable insights to improve services through data analysis. So he's saying here that you should analyze the data. For example, we see that there is a trend for example, a trend for let's see, a trend for a certain product or a certain category of products. For example, like let's see, for example, a trend for watches, for example. Then we should concentrate on making more watches, or concentrate on some kind of products. Then we should produce more of this product. Anyway, so you should analyze the data, improve agency operational efficiency with up-to-date information. So you should refine the data, okay, to get, or you should analyze the data to get or to predict future business, to predict users' trend towards some products or some services, and improve the operation or operation efficiency with up-to-date information. So by analyzing the data, you can increase the operational efficiency of your agency, okay, but this should be with up-to-date information. So you can analyze the data and get accurate information or accurate results, and predict or improve your agency operational efficiency with up-to-date information. So you should have up-to-date information, and this up-to-date information should be analyzed to improve your operational efficiency. So let's see how we can extract actionable insights through data analysis. Here is giving some examples. For example, there is a certain amount of data, descriptive data, okay. What happened informs past happening by providing context to interpret raw information. So you are using all the data, okay, which is used to let's see here, used to predict what can happen in the future. So he's saying here you can use the descriptive data, okay, informs past happening by providing context or text to interpret raw data. So you have, for example, raw data like for example, figures for sales for a certain product, okay. For example, you have sold 50 shoes, for example, and then you have some descriptive data saying that this data is sorry guys, we have, for example, 50 shoes sold. So we can analyze this data, okay, to get a descriptive kind of data, analyzing why we have sold 50 shoes. So this is, we are analyzing this data and put it in a descriptive way, okay. Data visualization, graphs, charts, and reports. So we can, for example, as I said before, we have sold 50 shoes, so we can see this info on a data visualization, on a graph or on a chart, and then we can get a report of this data visualization to tell us what happened, why we have sold 50 shoes, for example. This is the first one, descriptive analysis of data. You describe the data, or you get the data and then visualize it and get reports out of it. This is the first thing. And then we have explanatory, just wait for a moment, we have exploratory, how to explore data relationship, uncovers patterns, spot anomalies, and forms connections between data set. Data discovery, so there is some data, for example, that is related to each other. When we know this relation between different kinds of data sets, then we can get, or we can analyze the data and get more out of it. So for example, some people, for example, there is a case that happens from a couple of years concerning a certain product, a car. They say that one of the customers sent a problem to the car manufacturer saying that the motor of the car doesn't warm fast enough, okay, when he buys, or when he buys a certain ice cream product. This was very weird problem. He's saying that when he go with the car and go to a certain shop to buy an ice cream, the motor takes a lot of time to warm up, especially when he buys a certain ice cream product, okay, and it warms in less time when he buys another product. So for example, he was saying that when he buy vanilla ice cream, the motor car warms faster, but when he buy another product, for example chocolate ice cream, it warms or takes a lot of time. This was a very weird problem that was sent to the car manufacturer, okay. When they analyzed the trends and the other data patterns, they discovered that the ice cream vanilla, it was a very famous ice cream product and a lot of customers buy it. So the shop have a very large quantity it was already made, so they make a lot of ice cream vanilla to the customers because they know in advance that there will be a lot of demand on it. So to serve this ice cream product, it doesn't take a lot of time. So he goes to the car and the motor is still warm, because the problem was the motor was not warmed fast enough, okay. So because of the vanilla ice cream, or the ice cream vanilla was served fast to the customer, so when he returned back to the car, the motor still, or it didn't take that much time to warm up, because it wasn't left so much time, or it wasn't left for a long time. But when he asked for any other product, ice cream product, for example chocolate ice cream, it will take a time to serve this ice cream, and the motor begins to be cold or not to be warm, and will take a lot of time until he return back to the car. So the motor needs a lot of time to warm up again. But the problem was that serving vanilla ice cream was fast, so the motor will not, or the motor didn't have much time to cool down, okay. It was warming up fast, okay, because it didn't cool down, because he didn't leave the car for so much time. Anyway, this was one of the things, okay, how to make trends or to analyze the data. So explanatory, how to explore data trends, for example, between specific amount of data. For example, we have, for example, something like another kind of data, explanatory data. Some kind of data goes up and goes down, okay. There is a relation, for example, between demand and price. For example, this is kind of data. If you have a high demand on a product, okay, and there is less supply, then less supply of the product, then the price will get high. This is a kind of relationship between the price and the supply. the more you supply the product, the less the price will be for the product. The less supply you give for the product, the more the price will be. So this is a kind of relationship between the kind of data. Okay, so this is a kind of analysis, descriptive analysis, to have a description about what happened, to analyze what happened, okay, in an explanatory way or in a descriptive way, or to explore the relationship between the kinds of data. This is one thing. And diagnose, this is another kind of data, to analyze the data to diagnose certain problems. Okay, so this is thing, you can analyze the data to get certain action plans to rectify or to solve or troubleshoot certain problems or certain service problems or production problems. Okay, this is a kind of analysis. So you have a descriptive analyzation to analyze the data in a descriptive way and put it in data reports or data graphs. This is descriptive. Or exploration, to explore the relationship between different sets of data. Or diagnose, to use the data or this kind of analyzation to analyze that to diagnose a problem. Or you have a kind of analyzation to predict future business, predictive analyzation of data to get future business, okay, based on historical data or based on all the data. Okay, and at the end there is perspective. Okay, so predictive, what will happen in the future based on past data. Perspective, how will it happen? So you, for example, you are planning to take a certain action. Okay, this action will be in the future, so you should predict what will happen based on this future action. So this is called perspective, how it will happen. Suggests courses of action and outlines corresponding potential implementation, or courses of actions, okay, that will have potential implementation. So you should through this kind of analyzation perspective know, if you do a certain action, what will be the consequences. So this is a perspective analyzation of data. Predictive, to predict the future business based on historical data. Diagnostic analysis of data, to diagnose a problem based on a certain amount of data. And exploratory data, to see the relationship between different sets of data. And there is this descriptive analyzation, to analyze data to be in a descriptive way, what happened in graphs or in reports. For example, a sales report, a data visualization report. So these are all kinds of data. When you be asked, for example, on a data visualization or a data report for the sales this year, so this is a descriptive report or a descriptive analyzation of that. So these are all kinds of analyzation of that, and this is under understand ways to use the data. So to use the data, we need to get actions, insights, or to take actions based on analyzation of the raw data. So to understand ways to use the data, we can use the data efficiently by analyzing the data. This is the first part. So to use the data efficiently, we need to analyze the data, and there is a lot of ways to analyze the data: descriptive, exploratory, and diagnostic, predictive, and perspective. So these are the kinds of analyzation of the data. And then the second part is to improve operational efficiency with up-to-date information. So he's saying having up-to-date information can help improve organizational efficiency. So improve agency operational efficiency or up-to-date information. This is another way of understanding how to use the data. Okay, so you can use the data to increase the agency's operational efficiency. Okay, so you can use the data to extract useful information, or you can use the data to or analyze the data. So use the data efficiently by analyzing the data to get a lot of action plans for your organization. And you can improve agency operation efficiency also by using the data efficiently. How you do this? Hanging up to date information can help improve organizational efficiency. Your agency should conduct regular data updates to ensure a single source of truth, which can improve efficiency in the following ways: save time and effort in verifying with users on their information when assessing applications, ensure consistency in staff assessment of users' eligibility for services with fixed eligibility criteria, demonstrate accountability to stakeholders, support efficient planning of resources and new services. So he is saying that you can use the data to save effort. So if you have up-to-date information, or use the data efficiently, and your data is accurate, this will save time in the agency operational, or in the agency operation. This will save time for your employees to serve the users. It will save time also, or it will give you accountability. So if your data is accurate, you will be accountable, or you will appear with a good way in front of your stakeholders if this is a large organization. And this also help you to plan how to use your new resources and your existing resources. Okay, so again, by using the data, we need to verify purpose for using the data. This is the first thing, and it is generally used to get actions, okay, about the business, or to get reports about the business, and to enhance the service of the business. Okay, so verify purpose for data usage. We have discussed this. Understand ways to use the data. We have discussed they can use the data in two ways: analyze the data, okay, and there is a lot of ways to analyze the data, and improve, or use the data to improve the agency operational efficiency. Again, the third one, it will be establish internal protocols and procedures for data usage. Let's see this. An internal data policy should serve to clarify internal protocols and procedures when using data across the agency. So here you need to have a clear procedures how you can use the data within your organization, which departments should use which data, clear or develop a clear documentation of data. Okay, documentation of data. You should clarify, document all of your data, capture sufficient metadata or descriptive information. So every data should be clearly identified and described, so the users can know which data to use. Okay, help staff discover, identify, and use of data. So the more clear your data is documented and described, the more easy the users can identify the data and use it efficiently. So this is what we mean by develop a clear documentation of data. Okay, this is the thing. So let's go and continue about the other things. One of the things also for when you are making an internal data policy usage, we have said to develop a clear documentation of data, and then you should make something like a data dictionary. Okay, something to put the terms of data. So for example, what is a financial data? This should be put in a data dictionary so that the financial team knows how to identify financial data. What is an IT data? This should be in a data dictionary so IT can know which data is identified as informational technology data. So saying facilitates standardization by documenting common data structures, the precise vocabulary needed for discussing specific data elements. So he is saying that you should have a clear documentation about your data. You have developed a clear documentation of the data. Each data type should be described, okay, and to have a clear data vocabulary, data dictionary vocabulary. So when I say financial data, that means a certain sets of data. For example, maybe balance sheet, maybe something like this. When I say financial data, then means that there is some terms that are related to the financial data, some very specific terms. Okay, so saying here facilitates standardization by documenting common data structures, the precise vocabulary needed for discussing specific elements. So here again, this under shared data dictionary. So first of all, when you are making an internal data policy, you should make a documentation of the data, a clear documentation of the data, to let the users easily identify and use the data, and to have a clear, this is one thing when you develop a documentation of data, to have a data dictionary about the vocabulary of the data, what is a certain data vocabulary term means. Okay, ensure here definition, relevance, and the quality of data elements are the same for all users. Ensure confusion. Anyway, I think he's talking about the same here. So he's saying about the data dictionary. So we have said when you are making internal data policy, you should develop a clear documentation of data. That means to describe every data, every kind of data in details, and to have a data dictionary of all of the vocabularies related to each data type. So when I, for example, is explaining financial data in a descriptive way, I should say that when I say balance sheet, this is related to financial data, the terms that is attached to this kind of data. Okay, so this thing we should establish a clear documentation of data. Okay, this is one thing when you are making an internal policy, and ensure a smooth process of data transition and management across staff. Establish data classification levels and associated access rights to staff and groups. So when you make a documentation of the data and make clear terms about the data and a very clear description about the data, then comes the second part, to ensure that associated rights are assigned to every kind of data, and the smooth transfer of data between the departments. Okay, this is something. And to establish classification levels. So for example, maybe financial data, not all of kinds of financial data are available for certain amount of financial personnel. Okay, so this is also, after making documentation of the data, we need to ensure every department will access its own data, and to classify or to make data classification levels. Okay, to ensure also that not all of the data is accessed by all personnel. Okay, so here is saying the first thing when you have an internal data policy, to make a documentation. The second thing is to ensure a smooth process of data transition and management stuff. Establish data classification levels and associated access rights to staff groups. Help staff in seeking access rights when obtaining data from other units. So here, when everyone knows where or his access rights to his data, then when he needs to access another data, he knows where to talk to. For example, if I need to access IT data, then I need to talk to the IT. So this is what happens when you make a clear internal data policy. All of the data are documented. It is described, every data type is described, a data dictionary is done, so for every amount of data or every type of data, so everyone will know his data type and the terms related to his data type. Okay, and also the associated rights for every data type. Okay, so this is a very good thing when you are making an internal protocols and procedures for data usage. And also in your internal data policy, you should ensure to have a part of this policy to address the personal data protection. Okay, which is the fourth part. Let me go and continue. So it's ensuring a data smooth, inform, and also one of the things to ensure smooth transition of data between departments is to inform and educate staff of data protection policies via posters, emails. So another thing when you are making an internal data policy, to ensure the smooth process of data transition by assigning access rights and to educate the users about data protection. This is one thing also to be or to ensure smooth data transition and access and management across staff, or to manage and transit data. So to control the transition of data and the management of data, you should have access rights on every type of data, and to educate the users about who should use what type of data. Okay, help staff put policies into practice, remind the staff of the necessary actions to take to safeguard personal data, especially if handling data is a part of their day-to-day activities. Okay, so this is all still we are talking about internal data policy. The last thing is to ensure compliant use, access and transfer of data, build a data dashboard. So updates your agency common or regular information needs in a systematic manner. So here is saying that you should update your internal data policy, and your data policy should be compliant with, for example, the government data policy. So your internal data policy should be in line with the government or your country data policy, for example, or the ministry, or if you are, for example, you are related to a certain ministry in the country, Ministry of Business, for example. So you should have your data internal policy in compliant with the Ministry of Business data policy, for example. Update your agency common or regular information needs in a systematic manner helps your agency align and generate common discussions and understand of data across the agency, which is internal anyway. So when you have an internal policy, data policy, you should consider making, the first thing, you should make a clear documentation about the data, types of data, describing each type of data, and to make a dictionary for the data and the vocabulary associated with this kind of data, and to ensure the smooth transition of these data between the departments by putting the appropriate rights on each type of data, and to educate the user about who has what or who will access what. Okay, this is something. And to ensure the compliance of your internal data policy with the government you are working with or the country you are working with, and to update your internal data policy based on your agency needs, okay, or based upon the changes in your agency. I think this is what he's talking about. So we have this, let's go further here. So this is the last thing here. So we have discussed establish internal protocols and procedures for data usage, and the last thing is he is suggesting that you should hire a data protection and cybersecurity consultant. If you could, you should hire one that is specialized in protecting data. Okay, this is one thing. And at the end, you should understand personal data obligation. When you are using data that contains, you are using a certain amount of data, especially personal data, you should take into consideration these things. Consent obligation, you should again ask the user. So when you collect the data, you should ask the user permission. When you use the data, you should return back to the user to see if there is any updated info about using his personal data. Consent obligation. Purpose limitation obligation, you should only use it for the purpose that you identify. Okay, then this is notification obligation. You should inform the user that you are using this data for this purpose, or you have used it before in another purpose. So you should have consent obligation. This we have discussed when you are collecting the data. And purpose, you should use it in a certain purpose, the purpose that you identify it for. Notification, inform the user that you are the individual that are using the data. So you collect the data, you should inform the user of collecting it. When you use it, you should also inform the user when using it. Okay, and then access and correction obligation, allow users to correct the data, so you can communicate with the user to update his personal information data. Okay, allow individuals to correct data error or omission, provide information relating to how data has may been used within the past year to respond to specific access request. Consider what a reasonable person could consider appropriate in circumstance and use anyway. So correct the data, so you can access and correct the data. Ask the user if there is some data error to correct it, personal data especially. And we can continue protection, and you also are obliged to protect the data, limit access to personal data on a need to know basis. Okay, so the using of data should be limited, personal data, and to do something called anonymize. To make the data, if you will use the data, you should remove any thing that will identify the data, some anonymization of data. Okay, so you can protect the data by limit it, or limit the personal data access to only the users that need it, or to anonymize the data to make it from a personal data type to be an anonymous data type that doesn't direct to any personal, to any user or any something. So I think accuracy obligation should also should be accurate. So there is a lot of obligations here: protection, notification, consent. Accuracy obligation: ensure data is accurate before using it to make decision affecting individuals. Ensure source is legitimate before allowing any updates. So there is a lot of things, again, from using personal data: accuracy obligation, protection obligation, access and correction obligation, notification obligation, purpose limitation obligation, and consent obligation. So these are the 5 things we should consider when using the data. To verify the purpose of data usage, this is first, number 1. Understand ways to use data by data analyzation, okay, and use the data to increase our operational efficiency. Establish internal protocols and procedures for data usage. Should have a clear policy about the different data types. Describe it. Make a dictionary for every kind of data and the terms associated with it, and then understand the personal data protection procedures for protecting, or when using personal data, should put into consideration a lot of obligations we have discussed now. Hope this video informative for you all, and thank you all for viewing. Thank you so much.